Bryan Mbeumo still has not walked through that door, and we know that Manchester United are very interested. What's the latest?
People keep saying, what's going on?
I feel like I've asked this question more than any other this transfer window.
It's becoming a little bit of a transfer summer saga, isn't it? We know that Manchester United are interested. Their second offer was rejected. They remain confident that they can get a deal over the line for Bryan Mbeumo. We're expecting to see a third bid, which would probably be a final bid for the Brentford man. Manchester United would love to get this wrapped up and sorted before they go on their pre-season tour of the USA as well, and they very much want Bryan Mbeumo to be a part of that squad that travels with Ruben Amorim. The key thing is the fee and, most importantly, the structure of the payments. Brentford have always been quite staunch in that we want £65 million and we want the majority of that paid up front. So therefore, Manchester United are either going to have to be a little bit creative or they're going to have to find a softened stance from Brentford to get this deal over the line. I feel like I'm a broken record. I keep saying it feels like it's close. It feels like it's close. Okay. But until it feels Manchester United lodged that third bid, we're still just waiting for those moments.
Just off the back of that, I think Brentford will wisely look at Mbeumo if he was to leave. They've got to prepare themselves that if the deal to Manchester United does materialise eventually, they're going to need to be in a position to start the season having replaced Bryan Mbeumo. And Omari Hutchinson from Ipswich Town is a player that they are very, very interested in. Now, I'm told that Brentford saw multiple approaches for Omari Hutchinson. We expect Brentford to go back in. They do remain interested. Ipswich have got no intention of selling Omari Hutchinson, but having no intention of selling and actually selling are two different things. It's not a case of he is not for sale, because every player has got his price. And if Brentford do come back in with a figure and a structure of payments that Ipswich Town think, do you know what, it's something we can't refuse at the moment, then there is still a possibility that this deal can get done. Hutchinson, for his part, still got 4 years left on his contract. But when Ipswich Town made those, but they made so many signings, didn't they, last summer, they included these relegation clauses in the contracts just to make sure that if some of their big players were to end up leaving, they would be in a position where they could still get big money for them and then reinvest it to go back up from the Championship into the Premier League next season.
And is that deal dependent on whether they let Mbeumo go, or will they?
I think there's an independent interest in Omari Hutchinson, but he is clearly a player that Brentford will be looking at if Mbeumo was to go, because it's no point Brentford being in a position of trying to get as much money as they can for Bryan Mbeumo and then say that deal happens really late and they haven't got anything or any player to replace him with. It's not how clubs do business. So that's why they are looking around for potential targets if and when Mbeumo leaves Brentford.
OK. For the main words there, what did you make of what Sheringham had to say?
Well, Teddy Sheringham's one of those iconic Premier League players and was a part of a hugely successful era, not only at Tottenham, but, of course, Manchester United, and played, well into his 40s. I remember watching him play for Colchester in his 40s. So when a player of his calibre, his knowledge, experience, sits up and says things, you take notice. He's been there, done it and got the T-shirt. No question about his words being very, very powerful. And if that's how he views the situation, then he, as a former Manchester United player, absolutely has the right. When we look at the current situation, we know that Barcelona are interested in Marcus Rashford, and he is their #1 target at this stage for that left-wing berth that they're looking to recruit for. There's been still no formal offer from Barcelona to Manchester United. However, they do remain interested. I think the most positive and powerful thing that Barcelona have on their side is that they know that Marcus Rashford is desperate to play for them at Barcelona, and he's made no secret about his desire to head over to Spain. The problem will be finance, and that's where Manchester United...
His salary?
His salary. And Manchester United will be looking at a player through their academy and saying, well, actually, he represents 100% profit, so we want our £40 million, which was what was agreed with Aston Villa, but they decided not to exercise that option. So therefore, we need to get that kind of money because that's what we believe he's worth as a minimum.
Just aside of Rashford, there are a few other players
trying to get
that we
out.
do know that Manchester United have said, look, just delay your return to training, sort out your futures. One of those, of course, is Jadon Sancho. Interesting what's happening there at the moment, because Juventus are very interested in Jadon Sancho. However, they're currently finalising a deal to sign the Porto forward, Francisco Conceição, who they had on a straight loan last season. And at the end of that, there was no option, but there was a release clause in his contract. Juventus were trying to negotiate on that release clause. Porto wanted 30 million euros up front. Juventus wanted to pay a little bit more in return for more favourable payment terms, which is what we think they've agreed to do. They're going to pay Porto 32 million euros, and they'll pay that over 4 instalments. Now, the feeling was it was going to be one or the other, Conceição or Sancho. But the information that we're getting is that a deal for Sancho to Juventus has not been ruled out. But it is thought there would have to be departures at Juventus for them to be able to fund a deal for Sancho. Now, significantly, Marseille are in talks with Juventus over a potential deal for Timothy Weah. Now, that could help Juventus fund a deal for Jadon Sancho. Talks between United and Juve are open, as are talks between Juve and Sancho's representatives. As yet, there's not been an agreement on either. So there hasn't been an agreement on a transfer fee, and we talked about Rashford's wages. Sancho's on big wages as well. So Juventus remain in talks with his representatives over trying to find an agreement on the personal terms. It feels like the more problematic one would be the personal terms. And then Juventus could probably negotiate on the transfer fee with regard to Jadon Sancho. So no agreement on either front yet, but we think that Sancho's asking price is around £25 million, which is what Chelsea would have had to have paid had they taken up their obligation at the end of last season. Anthony, meanwhile, Real Betis, we know they remain desperate to sign Anthony. Anthony wants to go to Real Betis, had a really successful second half of last season at Real Betis. Difficult deal again for Real Betis to do, given the finances involved. But these 5 players behind me, they're the ones that Manchester United want to do permanent deals for.
Alejandro Garnacho as well. Any updates on him? He carries on posting these cryptic social media posts.
Yeah, I mean, Manchester United, again, want to do deals for all 5. There haven't been any formal offers, we think, at the moment. Napoli were interested earlier on in this transfer window, but they couldn't get a deal done. The noises around Garnacho would suggest that any deal, he would prefer a permanent deal to a Premier League club, so he wants to stay in England.
OK, so Manchester United trying to offload some players, but in terms
Big chances could be on the horizon at Manchester United, as fresh reports suggest that 3 of the club's most high-profile wingers, Alejandro Ganacho, Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho, may all be heading towards the exit door at Old Trafford. Starting with Alejandro Ganacho, the talented Argentine winger has been one of the few bright sparks in the difficult season for United. Despite his youth, Garnacho has established himself in the first team regular and delivered standout performances on multiple occasions. However, his recent frustration with the team's direction, both on and off the pitch, has fueled speculations that he may consider a move elsewhere. Sources close to the player insist he wants to compete for trophies consistently and would be open to switch if right offer arrives. Several top European clubs, including Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, are reportedly monitoring his situation very closely. Then there is Marcus Rashford,